All right, welcome to Mr. Miller's Woodshop podcast. I'm coming to you guys today from my truck, driving home from CTE Works Summit from Plymouth, Minnesota, and I don't have a whole lot on the docket to talk about today. I don't have any notes to go off of, but before I get into just kind of my rambling time here, please go over and like and subscribe me on all my social media pages, my YouTube, follow me on Spotify, set up notifications, all that stuff so you don't miss out. And please, of course, share with your buddies. So I had a sub today. Kids are in class doing work. Hopefully it went well. But it was super valuable to hear from some amazing educators, people in education that are trying to make things better. There is so much that exists out there. And it is really nice that my district supports, my building supports me getting out to go and speak to these people. And kind of giving you some backdrop here. I initially got an email, pretty much I checked the sender list. It was sent to probably every shop teacher in the entire state. I don't know how they put that list together, but it was just an invitation to speak at this conference, and I was sitting in the airport, and I got the email, and I had a few hours to kill because I don't usually travel via airplane. And so I got plenty of time to write up a proposal for what I could present on, and had no ambition to be a presenter, but kind of sounded like it was fun, and I had nothing else to do. I was just waiting for my airplane to go to the International Woodworking Fair, so I was just chomping at the bit for everything woodworking and education. So filled it out, and miraculously I got approved for it. And it's kind of sweet too, because as a presenter you get a heavily discounted rate for it, which my building supports me in these endeavors, which is super cool. The committees and all the other big school, big district stuff, hoops that I had to jump through, got approved, and the people were very helpful and supportive and believe in it and grateful for me. And I saved them money by being a presenter, otherwise it would have been over double the price. So that's kind of neat. It's local to me, so I'm in the truck right now heading home. It's about half hour away from my house. So how awesome it is that I get to teach where all this exciting stuff is happening. There's so much going on in Minnesota right now. If you're not aware of what's going on, I got a lot of data today from a presentation on teacher retention, and I have no expertise in that, so I'm not going to talk about that. But we got 22% less per capita shop teachers than the rest of the country, and I still feel like we're doing some pretty cool things out of the MTEA. Out of the CTE TIP network I've been loosely affiliated with the last couple of years. They do big conventions at the end of the year, and it turns out each time I applied for it, my wife was having a baby, so I never got to see that through to fruition. But this has kind of motivated me to get involved with it a little bit more. Right now we're not expecting, and it should probably stay the case that way. And hopefully I can see through to the end, the CTE TIP. Probably have to wait until the next school year for that to happen, and who knows what happens then. So maybe it'll be in like 10 years I can participate in this. It's a mandatory meetings at the end, and when you got a newborn, nothing's mandatory except caring for that newborn. But so many cool things that were happening, and I'll just kind of queue up my day. So next week, when you guys get notified this podcast is available, it's going to be my speech. So I had the recording app going in my phone, and I had my phone in my shirt pocket as I was presenting today, so you don't get the wonderful visuals that I created on PowerPoint, but you will get to hear a little bit what I talked about. And I guess I want to start with just kind of my day. I got up at like 5. I like getting up early and being prepared. Get here at 7, and I can't believe how many people came late. They say doors open at 7 and you can network beforehand. They got breakfast for you. So, they're trying to get people in here, yet so many people don't show up until 8:30 when the keynote is supposed to start up. But anyway, one of the first people there, and I check in, get my badge and lanyard, and okay, I'm speaking here. And then behind me, and I knew he was going to be here, is my he's not an old guy, but he has been doing it a while. The Opportunities in Emergency Healthcare teacher from Spring Lake Park High School, Bill Nice. And he remembered my name, or he's got really good eyesight to see my badge from across the room that they gave us all lanyards to wear. But it's cool. He remembered my name and shook my hand. And he's done this a ton of times. He is a mover and shaker in the world of healthcare education. And so it was so cool to talk to him because I feel like so much of what I'm doing, I'm basically mirroring kind of his structure. And part of the reason why I decided to ultimately come to CTE Works Summit is because I saw he was going to be there. And I've got some healthcare things that I want to incorporate into my room that I wanted to pick his brain on. And I got to do that over breakfast. So he's been there a million times. And he invited me to have breakfast with him. And like, cool, awesome. I remember doing this 15 years ago when you sat by me at lunch one day, like just flashbacks to that and all the teachers that are now the athletic director and this guy's the head football coach at neighbor school. And like, wow, okay, it's so much fun to see where your favorite teachers landed. And so that was kind of our conversation. And I gave him an update on my family. And like the last 4 years, we've had 3 kids. And like, he's like, oh my God, God bless you and all that. And just great man of character, and just that's kind of who I'm modeling a lot of my teaching off of too. So it was really cool to reconnect with him. I'd see him just about every year before COVID at a charity food drive event. He just brought his program, and I went there on my own with my family. We had been doing it for like 10 years before COVID. So I'd see him there and kind of keep connections. But yeah, it was wonderful because I also got to ask him for some tips. So I remember his class, he told me, I'm not going to be your favorite teacher this year, but in 5 years I will be. In 10 years, I will be your favorite teacher because I'm going to give you a real life experience here. I am going to ask from a lot from you to get a passing grade. And I kind of feel like I do that too. And I jokingly told all the people that came up and say hi to him, and he'd introduce me, and I'd tell him, hey, he's got a good sense of humor, so he could handle it. I would just say, this is the guy why I didn't want to go into healthcare. And, oh, wow, okay, there's got to be a story here. But the story is because he challenged us. He showed us what the real world was like. I got a great intro class in healthcare at Spilling Park and learned CPR, got first aid certified, and then all of a sudden I started the EMT track with him. I'm like, oh my God, there's a lot of pressure involved here. And boy, I got to know this stuff off the fly, and there is no retakes when you're talking about healthcare. And he built that into his classes and did a world class. I passed. I was so grateful. I ended with a first responder certificate for 2 years after I graduated high school because of him, and also the assurance like, yeah, this isn't for me. And so I try to give that to my students too. I'm not just trying to be Mr. Fun Teacher. I want to show them what the industry is like so they can make an informed decision on whether or not they want to do this for the rest of their lives. So it was fun to kind of tell him that face to face 15 years later. He introduced me to a couple people, and then I ran into another shop teacher who was a buddy of mine, so I sat with him and we shot the breeze a little bit. But then speakers started talking, and we gave our attention to them, and I had to sneak out a little bit early because I was presenting immediately after the keynote was done. And so I wanted to make sure. I was in a breakout room. This isn't like I'm talking in front of a packed conference stadium. But I did severely underestimate how many people would want to come and hear about new shop methods. And somehow I'll link my presentation in next week's podcast so you can kind of see a slide deck of it, or somehow see the visuals, because I think that tells a lot of the story. And it's my crutch when I speak. I mean, I got to have that slideshow, death by PowerPoint kind of thing. But I'm not a speaker, okay? I'm a woodworker, and I like sharing my knowledge with people who want to know woodworking. So I'll share that as best I can. But so my buddy followed me out. He had enough of the keynote, and hit bathroom, grab my bag, and we go up there, and I'm getting power and sound hooked up, and get the screen on, and I can see all my visuals, and I taped some of my handouts to some of the tables so that people can see what I'm talking about when I say a QR code on how to turn on the time saver machine. So they can see that right then and there. Get that set up, and we had the biggest trouble with audio, and the audio guy comes in. He's like, are you really sure you're going to need it? And conference room could probably hold like 40 comfortably. Well, I kind of imagine I'd have like 4 or 5 other shop teachers that would want to come and hear me speak, and I had well over 50. I have not been on my phone since I left. I was just talking with everybody. Apologies for that if you've been trying to get a hold of me. I've called my wife, which is number 1, and everyone else is tied for number 2, and that is also dead last. So I wanted to give my energies to the people that I was in front of all day long and learn myself. I mean, I'm in the state of the learner at that point, so I'm not going to waste my time or their time, checking Instagram or LinkedIn connections. So, 50 people showed up in that room, and there was standing people in the back, and tried to encourage some of the teachers to move up before it started to kind of account for the people that came late. And of course, I probably wouldn't move either. If I got a good spot by the door, I don't want to move. And so they didn't move, but whatever, no big deal. Real intimidating, but this was probably the first time I've ever spoken at an event like that where I wasn't nervous to actually speak. I was nervous about what I was presenting on because I've gotten mixed reactions from you people who listen to me, emailing me all these horrible things, but I mean, it comes with putting yourself out here. I get teased pretty ruthlessly for putting myself out here, but the people who showed up at that conference genuinely want to get better, and I think this method of using video and incorporating your cell phones into your lessons, there's some weight to that and some merit to that. And I made sure, I wanted to shake everybody's hand when they came in, but they came in so quickly, and a couple of people would want to do a quick, about me talk, and, that would last 30 seconds, but then 4 people would come in behind them. And so I wasn't able to shake everybody's hand in there, but I was really grateful that they showed up and listened. And what was really intimidating, I guess the one thing that did make me the most nervous, is that my head of curriculum for the entire district was at the meeting, and he saw me during breakfast, and he was like, maybe I'll come and see. And I'm sure he was going there to watch what I was going to say anyway, but he kind of played it off cool. He was in my room last week when Safety Speed came, and we thanked him. And so he's a believer in the program, but he's also, he jokingly says that he works for me, but that is far from the case. I report to him and the several people underneath him before I report to him. And so I was grateful that he came, but also ultra nervous because my school has gone total cell phone free. And if you're a 9th grader, if you have a 9th grader in every of your classes, you better not be using phones. And I am, and I am the teacher, and I kind of feel that when that door closes, I am the teacher, and I get playing by the rules, and we're better together and all that, but my classroom is so significantly different than your math, science, social studies classrooms, where I feel like I can take some liberties, and I've seen a lot of success in doing that. And so I was nervous about what he was going to say. And there's some social media side too that he actually asked some good questions at the end of okay, you're putting pictures of kids online, how does that work about getting approval? And of course there's photo restrictions listed on their attendance. And I asked the kids, do you want to have your picture online? And so their verbal confirmation, there's nothing written on that, but I guess I don't know. I don't have a great answer for that, but he didn't seem to balk at it when I told him that. And I was able to present the fruit of it and how much money and donations we were able to receive, how public relations in a big district are a big thing, and right now everybody is looking fondly upon the woodworking program because of the success that we've had. So I feel like he was a happy customer, and he's supportive. He even he personally bought a shed that we had on auction from kids that built one, and so he's a believer. And I guess I just gotta stop thinking like I'm still the young punk looking to change everything. I am trying to change some things, and I'm trying to approach it not as a punk, but I do like to think that I'm still the younger one there. I'm definitely one of the younger ones in the district in the shop program, so that's, I don't know. Anyway, it was really encouraging. It's one thing too, is I've kind of learned as I've spoken to a couple other people, like RBF, if you know that acronym, resting something face is something that shop teachers portray almost by default. And so as I'm speaking, I kind of expected that, and that maybe what helped relieve me from not being so darn nervous to start. I was like, I know these guys are going to frown the whole time because that's what my advisory board did, but then they came and shook my hand and said that this is the best one they've been to in 20 years, and they didn't need to say that. So I feel like I'm onto something, and I'm just the guy talking about it. I haven't invented anything that I'm talking about. John almost presented the ideas for QR Kids, gave me the idea. I'm the cheap knockoff. He jokingly says I've perfected his method, but no, I'm not even the best program in my district. It's definitely Blaine High School, John Almost's program. But ran through the presentation. It seemed like it went well. And several people afterwards stayed and asked questions for the group. And we were running long, so we got booted. But a bunch of people, even though there was only 10-minute passing time between breakout sessions, a bunch of people hung out and waited. I kind of imagine a few people, but there was probably 10 people that talked to me the next hour about how they could do it, what it would look like in this setting, and just some of the intricacies too of, like, on YouTube, are you unlisting? Are you public? What are you using your personal account? And I was able to speak to that in a way that I probably wouldn't want to out loud, I guess, to the world to hear, just for some like personal protections. Like I use my personal email on my account because I want to keep this separate a little bit. I mean, I'm doing this on my own. I'm not getting paid for this. It is helping my program, and so it's a way for me to grow. And I also fear too, like if we're facing huge cuts in Anoka Hennepin, and while I don't think that I'm on the chopping block, I'm certainly one that could be, being one of the newer teachers, and protecting myself from that so that I don't lose all this content that I've created. Don't lose my Instagram or LinkedIn pages, because that's kind of what happened when I left Cambridge. I had most of it on my personal account, but Instagram accounts that I set up, like I left them there, and the teacher that's there now uses them, and like more power to them. But it's like, God dang it, I worked my tail off starting that up, and now you're enjoying the fruit of it, which is a good thing, right? Okay, doing it the second time wasn't nearly as hard, getting set up for that online presence, but no, I wouldn't want to do it again. So please don't call me from your company and ask me to do that, like a couple local companies have here. Anyway, the presentation went well. So many people shook my hand after and said good work, and that's just so encouraging to hear, because I'm facing a meeting this week with a couple individuals that are going to try to bully me into, that know that I use this method. That's what they're going to try and do. They're going to try and bully me into not doing it, because when they're struggling with student management in their class, their kids say, well, we can use our phone in Miller's class. I have had big-time administrators come in. One of them was the curriculum guy. He said, I've witnessed Miller's class. If a kid's on his phone, it's no more than a couple minutes, and they're not a problem in his class. So when a student is using that as an argument for, oh, well, Miller lets us use our phones, like, they're used as a tool, all right? You can use a hammer in my class, but you can't in social studies, all right? That is the reason why. So I don't know, I'm a little fired up on that, and it's affirming to me to hear that I'm doing something good from teachers that are actually trying to make good change, give us a good perception, meet modern trends, set kids up for industry, for the real world, for today, as opposed to some of the teachers that, I mean, I get it. I don't know if phones are on net negative or net positive, but like, they're here. So why are we even asking the question? Why are we debating this? They're here. Okay, how are we going to teach kids how to do them? And I made this joke during my presentation that you'll hear next week if you tune into the podcast next week, but I got the slide that says the future is here, new frontier, yada, yada, yada. I equate the cell phones with gunpowder, I equate the AI with electricity, and I equate, can't remember what else, with automobiles. And like, there are people who disagreed with all this. All right, automobiles, electricity, gunpowder, they disagreed with it all, but they didn't win. And if you're disagreeing with phones, like, you're not going to win. Okay, until phones go away and we have them just implanted into our brains or something. Okay, that's the only way it's going to change, in my opinion. So, like, let's equip kids. And the joke comes where I take a drink of water and I kind of do a dramatic pause, and I say, my daughter turned 4 years old in October. My wife and her bought her a smartphone. And I have a stoic face. But then I just, flash a little smile and then just say, just kidding. I am not insane. And I didn't go on about this, but my daughter doesn't touch my cordless circular saw just like she doesn't touch my cell phone. It is a dangerous tool. Okay, it is so powerful it can hurt you quick. We'll FaceTime my parents, and so like she loves talking to Grandma and Grandpa. But like, girl, I'm holding the phone. You can hit the wrong button here, and it will not be good. Just like I wouldn't hand her my circular saw. That's kind of how I view it. And what kind of grinds my gears is I'm not saying this is the only method to teach kids. All right, this is one method. I feel like it's a good method. It's new. I know several teachers that do this quietly who have wildly successful programs, much more successful than mine, and they don't say anything about it. They wildly successful, teaching on an overage, go big game hunting with their big paychecks from that overage, and like, what the heck? Say something about this, because you're way more advanced than I am. Like, I got like 6 or 7 projects that are done, and you've got like over 20. Like, man, let's team up here. But I understand too, like, as soon as you start inviting in other people, like, and you invite the wrong people, it can open up a can of worms that you might not be able to put back into their box. And maybe that's what I've done by showing off and stating that I'm using phones in classes, even though I've been pretty quiet about it in my own school. I'm just quietly successful. I'm engaged in sporting events and pep fests, and we won the can drive this past week, which is awesome. I'm so grateful for my first hour's generosity. But I'm involved there, and so I'm kind of rambling at this point, but I really love what I do. It is unique that we get to do this in a time, and I can whine and complain about phones and kids' attitudes and, oh, it's not like the way it was, and maybe I will be that way when I'm 60, but I'm really going to try and remind myself not to, because it's going to change from now. I mean, my iPhone 11 is going to be way outdated. It'll be a joke in 10 years, but it's the latest, greatest. I don't even think the 11 is new anymore. I got this a couple of years ago, so probably now I'm dating myself. Now is like, don't have all the latest and greatest, but I mean, they're tools. They're dangerous, but the people who are well equipped to teach kids on dangerous power tools and shop teachers. And so I'm so grateful that I had that much of a showing, I guess, that people wanted to come and hear, because I went to a couple of the other breakout sessions afterwards, and there's plenty of open seats, and I think there was just as many presentations afterwards, and I was kind of up in a lofted area out of the way, so it wasn't like people stumbled in. And I haven't looked at any of the analytics. They are meant, they ask you to rate the presentation afterwards to see how it scored, and I think I'll score high, but I really don't like to look at that stuff because I don't want to develop a prideful ego. So I usually have my wife look at them, and she can kind of be that cipher between what it is, and it's kind of a nice thing to set up that way. But I don't know. I've got a couple miles and then I'm home, which is super cool. I was told last year was in Alexandria, Minnesota, which is about a 4-hour drive for me, and that would be way too long of a podcast for you. Maybe I could knock out like 4 or 5 that I've been wanting to do, but I'll probably take a little bit of a break around Christmas time, but I've got a couple queued up that I need to do, that I want to do around the end of the year, because I'm coming up on, and I didn't even realize it, I've passed my 10-year mark of being in teaching. I started substitute teaching November 13th, 2014, and so, wow, 10 years in education. That's pretty cool. So that'll probably wrap up my year, talking about 10 years, past 10 years, next 10 years, so you can look forward to that. New trimester starts for us in 2 weeks. Beginning of December, that'll start. I don't know when this will air, but I'm just ending my trimester now. I've got 3 more working days with my kids, and then I've got the full week off for Thanksgiving. And if you're an industry partner that's listened to this long, this is why educators got it so good, and why when you offer me to come to you, I say no, is because you giving me the full week off for Thanksgiving paid? No? All right, sorry, no. But there's trade-offs for everything. And one cool thing, too, is that there's starting to become a network of people that want to help people get into teaching trades, which is a hard sell. Rather than do it, why don't you teach it for potentially way less money? But the trade-offs, I think, are pretty good. It's 3:20 right now, and I'm about 20 minutes late from when I'm usually home. So I want to end by first thanking you for listening. I'm always so thankful that people are listening to this. I'll probably have a few more listeners after the event, and thanks for the new people who are networking. And I'm going to get right to work, and hopefully you've heard from me by then, by the time this comes out in a week. But if you haven't, please reach out to me at Mr. Miller's Woodshop on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. YouTube I don't check all that often. That's kind of my... If you leave me a comment or a message on YouTube, I might not get to it for a month. I'm still figuring out all these platforms. And it's kind of funny, too. Like, I met some of the younger shop teachers today, and just talking about social media and how I am 4 years older than my wife. I graduated in 2010. And at that time, MySpace was everything. You ranked your friends. You had songs on your page. It was awesome. I knew MySpace inside and out because that's what my generation had. All my church friends were on Facebook at the time, and I wasn't really into it until college. But being that my wife is 4 years younger than me, we discovered that our generational gap, if you want to even call it that, is she never had a MySpace, but I didn't have an Instagram until I needed to go to a wedding where I needed to have one so that I could link pictures that I took afterwards. And you can probably find me online. There's probably 1 million Bobby Millers on Instagram, but learning this app has really come from her, and that's probably the one I'm most active on. Definitely post the most on, post stories on, hopefully every day. I haven't been on all day today because I've had bigger fish to fry. I've got a lot that I want to learn, and never put myself out here like this. And here this year, I'm going to try everything. So next week, just want to end with next week. Please understand that it's not going to have all the bells and whistles of my usual podcast. There's going to be some dead space too, I'm sure, when I'm showing videos of my kids' testimonies on this. That's probably about a 10-minute segment too, and if that is quiet the whole time, I'm sorry. You fast forward as much as you can, but I spoke for 45 minutes, took questions after that, and during the questions I just ended the recording because I didn't think they would be as fruitful as they were, and I was a little worried too that people were going to stand up and say, "How dare you make a mockery of our profession," but nobody did, thankfully, and a lot of them had good things to say and great questions that honestly got me some ideas for future podcasts. So look at that, and follow me wherever you can find Mr. Miller's Woodshop, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks, folks.